Hey everyone. In this video, we're going to reveal how the pros use huge and lush reverbs without muddying, masking, and swamping out their mix. Let's go. So a little while back, I had the opportunity to interview Timofey Reznikov on my podcast called Industry Icons. And Timofey is the double Grammy-nominated producer, mixer, and mastering engineer for David Guetta. And Timofey revealed a little-known and hyper-pro reverb technique that allows him to have these massive, wide, long, and lush reverbs in these huge EDM tracks while still retaining a lot of punch and clarity in the mix. Normally those two things can't coexist. So we're going to peel back the onion. I'm going to play the clip for you from this interview so we can listen to exactly what Timofey has to say. And then we're going to show how to implement this technique inside an actual project. When I did the video with Isotope and I was analyzing the Billboard Hot Dance and Electronic songs, and two David Guetta songs were on that chart, and I noticed that both of them were mixed and mastered by you. So I reached out and we started a dialogue, and it had these big lush reverbs and delays, all these time-based spatial effects on it. And I was commenting how that when you have long delay tails and reverb tails, that they can be masking on elements in the mix. But that wasn't happening in your mix. You had the big, long, lush reverbs, but then you also had these really like tight and punchy, clear drums. And so when you're working in projects, what do you do with those big, long reverb tails? How are you getting those to play nicely with the other mix elements?
Well, there's a few techniques that I can explain. Well, the low, of course, it has to stay dry and you don't put any reverb on it. That's always like this. But with the high frequencies, layers, plugs, etc., of course, you have to decide what layer actually is most important for you musically and what stands out the most for the listener. That way, you can choose on what instrument you put the reverb. And the interesting thing that usually the listener, you don't understand on what exactly instrument this huge reverb is applied, and it gives so you don't over mess with the different reverbs you mix, but you give this huge reverb effect only one, but it's give that, I don't know how to say, like that feeling, a little fake feeling maybe, that it's everything is white.
Okay, so let's dissect what he's said so far. So first of all, he's saying choose an individual layer. Okay, and that's hugely significant here. So he's saying choose a layer that is the most musically significant or that's going to stand out the most for the listener. Okay, so he's not, say, applying this on every single mid-range instrument like a lot of people might. If you have a stack of synths and things maybe, or keys, he's selecting a specific targeted layer. He's frequency band limiting it. So of course you're going to exclude some of the extreme lows. You don't want reverb typically on the subs, especially long reverb. And then he's tucking it into the mix. And what he's saying there as well is that psychoacoustically, how we're perceiving it, how we listen, is that there's this sensation of a big reverb kind of on more than it is actually on. So he's targeting a layer, he's band limiting it, and the psychoacoustic effect is that we feel like there's this lushness on everything, even though it's not. So let's go see how to actually apply this technique in a real project, and I'll show you how to put it into action. Okay, so I've got a project spooled up here. I've intentionally made the mix extremely dry. I've taken out everything that I normally had in it for reverbs, and let's just have a listen to the project as it stands now. The first step in the process, step one, was to choose a layer, and a layer that is musically significant that will stand out to the listener. So that's subjective. Let's say, for example, in this project, we want that to be the vocal chops. Okay, so let's solo up the vocals and let's listen to that. Right, so we've got this super dry vocal chop layer. Now, let's go ahead and target a big lush reverb on this. Now there's a lot of different reverbs that you could use for this technique, but today I'm using a new free version of Temperance from Eventide. And this is a particularly interesting reverb because it does some untraditional things, which we'll show in a second. But I've just got it set up right now to be almost 7 seconds long. It's a massive lush reverb, and I've put it into a rack so I can process downstream of it. This is what it sounds like with the vocal chops soloed and the reverb. Okay, so we're hearing that there is that clarity there because the other elements in the mix and the other things that are layered with that kind of in the same space as that, like the mid-range instruments, are not soaked in reverb. You can see I've trimmed up the bottom and the top in terms of frequency range so that the reverb is really focused right on the mid-range where that vocal sits. Now, I told you I was going to tell you an interesting thing that this reverb does that is non-traditional. Well, it has this ability to target particular frequencies. Okay, so these are the notes that the vocal's hitting: a C, an A sharp, a G sharp. Now, if I turn the temper knob up, you can see it's going to target the reverb decay tail just on those notes. It's really crazy to listen to what it does. So let's just see if that improves the sense of this technique in the mix. Yeah, you can turn it back to exclude those particular frequencies and turn it all the way up to accentuate them. So let's just get this dialed in the mix and see how it sounds. So let's say maybe we want to use this reverb technique on something else. There's definitely other subjective choices where we could use this technique. So we're going to remove it from the vocal chops, and instead we're going to go down to the synth group, and we've got these layers here, this pluck and shamisen. So let's just listen to these guys. Okay, let's say we wanted to put the reverb on that group. Let's go ahead. I'm using a similar setup. I'm using Temperance, and let's just dial that in and see how it sounds on the different layer. So let's do a quick recap of the technique. Step one is to select an element that is important musically and that the listener will recognize, that will stand out in the mix. Step two is apply a big, long reverb to that one specific layer. And then step three is to thin out the reverb tail by using the cut filters included in the Reverb plugin. So why this works is psychoacoustically, it fools the listener into thinking that there's a bigger, huge reverb on more elements than there actually is. And that's because the ear cannot specifically target the layer that you've put the reverb on. So it kind of tucks it into the mix. The mistake or pitfall to avoid when using this technique is applying a big lush reverb to a thick range of frequencies or multiple layers all at once. That definitely will swamp out your mix, create muddying and masking problems. So there you have it, folks. That's how the pros are applying long, lush reverbs in their projects while still retaining the clarity, the punch in their mix and preventing things from getting muddied and masked in some of the biggest electronic, EDM, and dance tracks in the world. 2 thumbs up to Timofey for sharing this technique with us. He's an absolute master and weapon when it comes to electronic music production, and it's great that he's here and openly sharing his knowledge. So big ups to Timofey. I've put links to Timofey's work down below the video, so check that out. And I would highly encourage you to watch the full-length Industry Icons interview that I did with Timofey. I'll give a link to that long form video below. There are many other techniques and all kinds of insider secrets that Timofey shared during that interview, so make sure you don't miss out. This show is Iconic Insights, where I take little tidbits or nuggets from other videos, my longer form content that I want to discuss in detail and help to sink in and show practical applications of. If you want to check out the other episodes in this show, I will drop a link below the video as well. Right on. Drop me a thumbs up if you like this one. Please reply in the comments. Let me know what you thought about this if you have any questions, and let me know if you're using this technique or something similar to it in your own music. I'd love to hear from you. Right on. I'll talk to you on the next video. Cheers.